I think that this is going to be quite a different presentation that you've been seeing so far, because this is taking a whole other perspective than these very nice views into what is actually going on, what are the activities, and what are students and young children doing. I am a former PhD student. I just finished my PhD degree, and what I'm going to show you here is a part of that dissertation work and the project. So it is concerned with one investigation conducted in 2 art museums in Denmark. And I think going back to what I started off with to say to you, I might explain that this is a study framed and initiated by the wish to evaluate and to sort of provide a strong measure or a strong evidence or a strong account of what is actually going on in certain settings in art museums. So this might be then a this will be the way that this differ from your other presentations. Just to say very shortly a few words about what is the activities that I'm evaluating. In Argen Museum of Modern Art and in the National Gallery of Denmark, students are invited to participate in digital workshops where they produce a small file, a small podcast of either a video or a sound or other format. And this little file is initiated. It is done by the motivation and inspiration from artworks and from the dialogue that they had with an educator along a tour in the gallery. So along in the tour in the gallery, they are presented with a selection of artworks, and they are invited to share their views and opinions about the artworks. Of course, or naturally put in a frame to say that this exhibition has to do with the wild 80s, Danish artists in the wild 80s. What were their special techniques? What were their special expressions? And they were very much occupied with, for example, contrasts and vulgar language and so on and so forth. So altogether, I did this evaluation study using the accounts of 502 students in both museums, covering a different set of workshops. The main keywords in the workshops is that they are engaged in dialogue. They also helped and invited to discuss the matters in group works while they are producing, so to say, negotiating what is the content is going to be and how they want to shape the file they're creating. And the target group is 13 to 19, and different topics are on the menu for each day. So going into this with this aim at, so to say, I'm on the museum educational department side in this project. I want to create an account and create a stronger measure of different learning factors. So my research question was a set of selected factors. How do they seem to affect a learning outcome? And how is that possible to measure and interpret in a stronger way than we are normally used to? The interest is not that to try and uncover whether students learn or not learn. But anyway, the main framework for engaging in this project was 2 different theoretical inspirations. One of them was from Illeris and his work that says in a very general way, a general fashion, that learning always in some way or to some degree has to do with social interaction, incentives, and content. So this is the very high explanation, the first. But I want to show you a Am I right here? A second perspective? It doesn't move? It did. Good. Good. This is the other perspective that has been inspiring me in creating this more stronger model. Because Leinhardt and Crowley, they actually made a study in the museum learning collaborative in a study about learning in conversational activities in museums, and they created this model. And this model goes into trying to discern what factors are actually important when we're looking at learning and when we're trying to make this very stronger account of what does have an effect on learning. So they divided the important factors into 4 different constructs. You could say that identity plays a central role. The learning environment also has a role. And explanatory engagement is, so to say, the mediator. This is where it all happens. And you could say that learning has to do with the conversational elaboration. The level to which students and participants engage is also a measure of how much do they possibly learn. So this was a great inspiration to me in going further and deeper into what constructs would be relevant in this study at the 2 museums in Denmark. The theoretical inspiration as they work, because they are in matters of staff and training and so on and so forth, they are very inspired by these set of theories and these accounts that has been expressed in reports and evaluations of young people entering museums as part of their of some school project. So it's about finding meaning, it's about understanding new things, and it's about the educator being a central person, a central motivator, a central initiator of interaction and dialogue. And it's about artworks and engagement in creating content using digital media. And it's also about another study showing that young people tend to be quite, or there are some students that tend to be unmotivated when they enter art museums. They tend to say that this is not for me, this is just irrelevant to my life right now. So motivation also plays a central role in my study. I also made observations prior to this, where I had several accounts of young students saying that they are actually bored about this and that, and they didn't really want to engage. So these were steps into selecting the set of factors that I wanted to focus on. And this is the another step further into that core to create such a measure. This is the list of the constructs that I was working with and which I decided was most important. Say that dialogic communication plays a central role because the educator is so important. She is the person the students meet. They are talking to her. She is talking. So that person is very central for learning. Media use as well, because that is that's so to say the setting where young students can escape from the environment, can escape from a very complicated language, a certain pressure from perceptions of the elite way to look at art and so on and so forth. So media use and the qualities in that process, which has been discovered by and argued and discussed by Drotner as one example, being that imagination and autonomy and the social relatedness are, so to say, in the theories and in the accounts of media used in education. They are general characteristics of what that process is. So that's the keywords that I put up here for you. and so on. You could say that art experience would be in this setting a matter of attention and curiosity, wanting more knowledge, and so that is a special construct here, and constructs are, as in this study and in my argument, not generalized and not generalizable to other settings. This is an investigation that has created these special, covering these 4 museums. So I will not go through the other. You can go back and read about these in the paper. So if I would be very lucky here, I think it's because it's low on battery. I'm sorry. Yeah. It could be. I'm here. This is an overview taking another kind of step towards mapping these different constructs. So to say that what is perceived when they enter the museum has to do with these 3 preconditional factors, and you have process factors chosen here on theoretical ground, and what I collected for empirical evidence. You could see those factors there. And also, just a few words about the potential for further reflection. You say that this is a way to conceive of what is the outcome. That is a construction. As you would say, it is all a construction. We would say that does it really apply to and does it deliver any knowledge that you can say when students leave the museum, you have a positive orientation, you have a positive way of thinking about the experience, and you have a negative one. This is, so to say, one of the simplification and reductions of this model. This is just go very short into what is a construct. This is the learning outcome, the positive one. It's about finding meaning. It's about the content triggered some reflection. It's also about positive attitude. And we say that these are constructed in a way that they can be measured in items, in questions, put in a questionnaire using a scale. And then the analysis works this way. This is a confirmatory factor analysis that assumes that if we have a variation between these 5 indicators, we could say that this is actually an account of a positive potential for further reflection. Because if they are strongly related, what's the reason for that, we could say. And that's the, in very short way, the way it works. This is getting too hairy for you, I would say. Also for me in the start. It took a couple of months to be able to get an overview of this. Some of these I'm going to explain very, very shortly. You would say that the impacts on each of the process factors in the middle are measured using a hypothesis, and these are based on theory. So I have been reading up literature on different from different sections, explaining why the qualities in the media production process would be linked directly to a outcome, or it would be linked to enjoyment or reflection or other of the constructs. You can say there are some negative ones. That's because one perception would be that these qualities in the process would work negatively on amotivation. So to say that they reduce the level of amotivation. So it works also. When the model is estimated using the data from 500 students, it comes out with these significant weights. So you can go into the literature and say, well, what is your interpretation of a weight? It goes from 0 to 1. I would say that the stronger ones are between the educated dialogic performance, reflection, and positive potential for learning, or for further reflection. So the results are complicated. There is a whole range of them. And to try and reach in time, here's the list. You could say reflection is very strong. Educators' dialogic performance is a very strong preconditional factor for learning. Art experience also, media production process is also, and the qualities in there also impacts the group discussions, you would say. But the group discussion does not seem to be linked very highly to the positive potential for further reflection. So there are things going on in that group discussion construct that doesn't really seem to comply with some of the theories that this is a process. Group discussion among young people is good for learning, you could say. Well, there might be some other issues in there. So altogether, the study can be summed up in museums should continue to train educators in dialogic communication, and that the selection of artworks in the guided tour is very important, and it has a special value when they appeal to young people. Engagement is enhanced in the production process, but the group discussions, as I said before, needs further considerations. And then the battery went, and the time's up. So, very good.
Actually, well.